Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special and important episode. It's really focused on cybersecurity and the SIM swaps that have been happening, including to really prominent names in the Bitcoin space like Jeff Booth, Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, Mark Moss, people losing access to things like their X account. I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. And a lot of people have been turning to this very secure mobile service called Efani. So I wanted to bring on the general manager, Mark Kreitzman, and just learn a little bit more about what the risks are out there in the space and how can people protect themselves. So Mark, thank you so much, first of all, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Well, let's get a little bit of your background before we jump into the SIM swaps. A lot of people have really heard about it. I've had attempts, so I know the risks are out there. But tell us a little bit about your background, because you were a victim of a SIM swap, and that's part of the reason you helped create Efani, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in cybersecurity actually before it was called cybersecurity. And I've been working for founders really since 2001, building cybersecurity companies. And so if anyone uses the cloud email solution for Microsoft, I was part of that. If anyone uses the web security solution from Cisco Systems, I was part of that. So went through a couple acquisitions as well. And then what had happened was in 2018, I was trying to do my own crypto startup. And I was driving to see my parents in the middle of Arizona, in between Phoenix and Tucson, and I got SIM swapped. And so my mobile account got stolen away. I was by myself at that time. There's no payphones out there in the desert. And I had no choice but to just keep driving. Arrived at my father's garage, the Wi-Fi kicked in, and 6 password resets went up right my phone. And so I knew that I was screwed. So I ran in the house. My dad hadn't seen me for a while. So he's like, "Hey, how's it?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got an emergency. My mobile account's been stolen." And it turns out what a hacker did was they stole my mobile account away and they reset passwords. And then after 61 minutes, they ported that number back to my phone. And that kind of freaked me out even more. And so there was probably about 90 days where I didn't sleep. I didn't turn on Wi-Fi because I was afraid it would mask the issue. When I woke up, you get Twitter updates, you get your email over Wi-Fi. So I didn't use Wi-Fi for a while, and I sought out, and I thought somebody had to solve this solution, or somebody had to solve this. And so for a week or two, I was looking to see if somebody had solved it. I found the one person who claimed they had. We hit it off. He was in crypto. He was a big Bitcoin person at that time, and here we are today. So Efani ended up the SIM swap ended up killing the startup that I was trying to get started, because one of the things they stole was my hosting account, took the website down, and but there I was working with who now is the CEO and founder of Efani, and trying to turn a bad thing into a good thing. So he got SIM swapped multiple times. And
Wow.
that's why he started the company. He was a one-man show when I found him. I told him I've never been this angry in my life. And so I'm sure if there's victims watching this, they probably all feel the same way, because it's a complete invasion, and they steal data, they steal cloud information, they steal your email, your crypto, and there's people getting hit every day.
Right. I know there are more and more victims. And every time that this has happened, people have tagged your company. So full disclosure, I'm about to become a customer because this is something that a lot of people have to worry about, including people that are not, public figures in the space, right? Because it would maybe make sense that someone would try to hack someone that they think they have a lot of Bitcoin or something. But this is actually happening to a lot of just regular people. I mean, I've seen news stories where it's just some random person who all of a sudden can't access their phone and they're going through all their accounts. So can you maybe break down the mechanics of this? Because I know that it can happen in a lot of different ways, but how does a SIM swap work? And is it true that it's really a lot of inside jobs? Like, people are either in these big wireless network companies, the AT&Ts and all that, and they're actually hacking, people's private information. How are these SIM swaps conducted?
Yeah, it's done so many different ways, and I've actually thought about doing a video where I kind of outline all the different ways. And I'm afraid that I would actually create 10,000 new SIM swap, hackers by doing that. But it happens a couple reasons. So one is these carriers have these big hacks. So like last year, T-Mobile got hacked for 37 million records, and then just a couple weeks ago, AT&T got hacked for 40 million records. And so that means that there's files out there of 77 million people, and those aren't the only two hacks. But that means people's names, their email, their mobile number, and other information is out there. And so it gives people a starting point. So a lot of times it's these data breaches, and it could be like the Thai Tourism Bureau gets hit for 65 million people, or it could be a hospital system in Dallas gets hit for 750,000. And so all this information is out there. And that's one of the reasons why it's moved from high profile people like actresses and actors, or people just trying to get into their iCloud and their photos. And then crypto kind of exploded it. So now if they can invest 20 minutes and steal $3,000 of Bitcoin, then it's pretty good pay per hour. And so now with these big data breaches, that's why all of us now are potential targets, because these AI search tools, at this point, it's kind of crazy. And I had this demoed to me by somebody where he used a sales navigator tool on LinkedIn just to get some basic information about me. And then he used an AI search tool, and it took every element of what was known about me on LinkedIn and then took it like 3 layers deep. And it found emails I forgot that I had ever used, landline that predated mobile phones. And then it got information about like my parents and things. And so, the ability to do research on people is just incredible. So it's both insiders. I would say most of the time it's probably somebody close enough to know that you have Bitcoin or that you have crypto, or that you use it for your YouTube account or your X.com. And in terms of like how they do it, so the couple of different ways they do it is, one is bribery now. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, especially as crypto has gotten kind of exploded, it's worth paying somebody at a phone store a couple $1,000s, right, to make this happen, or give them a share. And so if you Google it, you can probably find a couple articles where people have been paid like $3,000, which is probably more than what the store rep is making in a month.
Coin Stories is brought to you by Bitdeer, where the power of Bitcoin mining is at your fingertips. As a publicly traded leader, Bitdeer's global reach and scale means they're everywhere you need them to be, ensuring you're part of the thriving Bitcoin economy. Bitdeer's not just mining, they are industry pioneers, and Bitdeer stands alone as the only vertically integrated, technology-focused Bitcoin mining company. What does that mean? Well, they're not just deploying, but developing the latest tech to make Bitcoin mining more efficient and effective. With the industry's most experienced leadership team, innovation is in their DNA, and it shows, with a quarter of their workforce dedicated to research and development, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in Bitcoin mining. Now they're leveraging years of expertise in data center and cloud management into high-performance computing through a recently announced partnership with NVIDIA. Join Bitdeer in reshaping the world of Bitcoin mining. Learn more at bitdeer.com and explore how they are pioneering the future today. I mean, I heard from one of the public figures that recently got hacked. They found out that it was an inside job, someone within the phone company that gave this information away and was able to conduct the SIM swap. And your team, when we were emailing back and forth, you sent me that it was a YouTube video of really like how the hack can take place. And someone just did it right on the phone in front of this. I don't know if it was a journalist, but they pretended to be someone's wife, and the baby was crying in the background, and they said they can't remember the whatever login number, the passcode, and this person on the other line actually granted them access and changed things over. I mean, that's so disappointing, because you would think that you're trusting one of these massive corporations and that they have procedures in place that protect your account, but that's not the case.
Yeah, so that's an example of impersonation or social engineering, and so it's sort of a soft step. So rather than these hackers going directly for a port out to like port your number away from your phone, they're doing it now in 2 steps. And so that was a great example of how I think she did it like in 2 minutes, where she actually changed his password
Hmm.
She added her own email account to it. And now all she has to do with that example is call back in like a day or 2 days later, and she'll get verified and be able to do whatever she wants with that account. And so it's kind of scary. So there's bribery, there's impersonation, there's insiders. So I think I know who you're talking about. So I talked to like half those
Hmm.
people you named. I probably
Hmm.
had video calls with them. Um, and so I get to hear about all the different patterns that are going on. And one of those, yes, I can't tell the details of it. He didn't want to share a lot of the details as well. But
Hmm.
one of them said that he was basically part of some big inside ring at one of the carriers, and that it involved like a high level person and some people that worked below them,
Hmm.
and that they had targeted some people and trying to make a big hit. Because these
Yeah.
days, with crypto at this point, if somebody's got 5 Bitcoins sitting in
Hmm.
an online crypto wallet or exchange, then it's worth the risk to a lot of
Right.
people.
And so is the honeypot essentially Bitcoin? Because if they do access those accounts, it's much harder to track than something like a retail bank where things might be a little bit difficult trying to, do a wire transfer from a Chase to Bank of America. But Bitcoin, you could send it to an international wallet that no one knows and has tracked, and so all
Yeah.
of a sudden, poof, it's really hard to chase that person down. Is that what's happening? Like they're going after specifically Bitcoin, crypto, or I guess like you mentioned iCloud photos and things like that too?
Yeah, I mean, so crypto makes you an obvious target. And so a lot of people will say, well, I store 100% of my crypto in cold storage. And so, yeah, that is safe from a mobile SIM swap. But what it does is you're a target. And so they're going to go after whatever they can get from you. And then they're going to steal data, your email, your cloud, your iCloud, and then try and sell that on the dark web and
Mm-hmm.
get something out of it. So I would say that crypto is probably the number one reason that they're going after it. But
Mm-hmm.
I talk to victims all the time. They don't even own crypto, and they
Oh.
never have owned crypto. They never talked about it, and it's just simply people. They happen to get their information. They're an easy target, so they're going to try and get what they can. And I've talked to
Mm-hmm.
people that are like ex executives of banks, and they've had $75,000 stolen out of a Citibank account or some bank account. I talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago who had 37,000 stolen out of a business account.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
what they've also said is that after a couple of weeks, they typically have gotten their money back, and
Oh
so the
yeah,
banks
right.
are pretty good about
Yeah.
giving the money back. And
Of course, it costs them nothing to issue money. That's the whole problem,
yeah,
right? Why Bitcoin exists. But okay, wait, let me dig a little bit deeper on just how this all works. So when you're SIM swapped, all of a sudden it's like your phone is dead, right? You can't access your accounts, you can't access the service. So essentially someone has ported over your phone number to another device, and then they can log in essentially. Like how does that part work? They can log in potentially to your email accounts, to your crypto or Bitcoin exchanges. How does that happen?
yeah. So one way I explain what's happening is if you have let's say you have an iPhone 12 today, and tomorrow you go out and you buy an iPhone 15. So you can obviously move your mobile account from your 12 over to your 15, and you can move your apps over to the 15, including an authenticator app, and reset that. And so what a hacker's doing is they're doing the same process. It's just that instead of moving it from the 12 to your 15, they're moving it from a 12 to the phone in their hand. Now they may be your next door neighbor, but they could also live 4,000 miles away, like which is what happened in my case. I'm in California. The person that hit me was in Memphis, Tennessee. And so what's happening is somebody through bribery or impersonation or an insider is having your carrier's network, instead of pointing to the SIM or eSIM in your phone, they get it to point to the SIM or eSIM in their phone. And so one of the things that sort of a myth is people think that, well, I've got a really secure phone and I use a VPN and I use antivirus on it, and they think that that's secure, and they use very complex passwords. But the reality is that when T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T's network switches the mobile account, your account, to point to a different phone, all the investment that you've made in your device is it's taken out of the equation. And so that hacker now he can use your voice, your data, your SMS to impersonate you. And then he's going to go and look to see what applications you use and then just use the forgot password. So basically the hacker doesn't care whether your password is just password one, the most simple password, or whether it's the most complex password in the world, because they're just simply saying to your application, forgot password, and then you're trying to reset that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is an attack that 15-year-old kids can do. And in fact, one of the biggest SIM swap was around 24 million. And the same teenager hit two people for, I think it was around 26.8 million between these two victims. And he was 15 or 16 years old.
Wow. That is crazy. I was always told that for security, you should do two-factor authentication and that you shouldn't do SMS because of it, precisely this reason. If someone were to SIM swap your phone, they could potentially gain access to the code that is generated by your phone if someone tries to reset the password, and to instead use authenticator devices or applications. Do those protect you? If someone SIM swaps you and your login requires that authenticator code, what happens?
So the authenticator apps are definitely more secure than the just pure SMS. Unfortunately, it's I think the stats somewhere around that 80% of financial institutions in the U.S. still only do SMS verification, and so that's necessary now. I think at this point, all the crypto apps and exchanges allow the authenticator apps at a minimum. And so it's the same rule of thumb that if you have an iPhone 12 today and buy an iPhone 15 tomorrow, you can move that authenticator app and reset it over on your iPhone 15. And so it makes it more difficult. So the hacker has to SIM swap you. Then they have to try and figure out what apps that you're using. And so they can test. They could simply go to the top 10 crypto wallets that are used in the US and just enter your email and say forgot password for 10 of them and see what kind of reaction they get. And then if one of them says enter your 6-digit authenticator app, well, now they know that, okay, now I need to get into your authenticator app. And so if they can use the SMS to get into your email, they'll then look for notifications of like, are you using Duo or are you using Google Authenticator? And then they're going to try and reset it. Now, if somebody's really, really sophisticated at security and they understand how to set up that authenticator app and they're using the most advanced methods to do it, they're going to make it really, really difficult or maybe even impossible to SIM swap it. But 99.9% of people just don't really, get that far into the cybersecurity, and they think that, well, I've got an authenticator app and so I'm secure, but it's not the case. And so since I'm sort of the techie nerd at Efani, all the victims usually will work their way to me. And one of the reasons for that is because I want to understand the patterns. I want to talk to these people, and more than half of them are using authenticator apps that got hit. And it's just that they got hit at a time where they went to bed, or they were on a long flight, or they weren't looking at their phone, or they got hit and their phone died and they just didn't realize what had happened, what it means. And then they go to the phone store the next day and they just wait too long, because you give these hackers time and they can do a lot.
Well, that's crazy. I've thought that with authenticator apps, you can't just reset it and download all of your information from a simple password reset, that you actually have to have the hardware and like scan the barcode. I mean, I thought it was a lot more difficult.
Well, like I said, it depends on how advanced the person is and how advanced
Okay.
they've set up the authenticator app. And the fact is just that 99% of the people are not using the full extent of how to set up these authenticator apps.
Okay, so you've kind of given us the why Efani exists, but what is Efani? Like, how does it solve this problem, and how come your service is so much more secure than really these massive monopolies that exist out there?
Yeah, so what we do is really, really simple. Is we're set up as a reseller of AT&T and Verizon. And so as our customer, you get to use the network of those two operators. But what's different and what's kind of scary about the industry is that as a reseller, we have a portal. We have a portals into and have the capability of pulling somebody's number from any carrier in the U.S. over to Efani. And so we have that capability. So a lot of people, a lot of other resellers and could be fraudsters have that kind of capability as well. Now, one of the differences is that when we pull you over to Efani, from that point on, just about everything we do is manual. So we don't do things like free Hulu or Netflix or Disney. That's like data collection, potential identity theft. We're all about security and just providing that mobile experience. And so when you get pulled over, we're locking that account down. And then the other thing that we do is different is that AT&T and Verizon don't have your personal information. So your name, your payment information, your address is now unknown to the carrier, and our customers are hidden behind Efani. And one reason, and that matters for a couple of reasons. So one is privacy, and it helps prevent SIM swaps, and it helps prevent prying eyes from being able to find you and find out what account, what carrier you're using. But like AT&T got hacked for 40 million records, just really like a couple of weeks ago. So if any Efani customers happen to be in that 40 million, they would get zero information out of it.
Oh.
So, the 39.9999 million, they're going to have all the names, they're going to have everything. So having, your name pulled out of that is actually very, very meaningful. The other thing that we do is we're locking out all the carrier employees, stores, the third-party independent retailers from having access to it as well. And it's to the point where if you were using AT&T through Efani and you went into an AT&T store and you gave them your phone, your passport, driver's license, and you just said something, you asked them simple like, how much data have I used? They'll try and help you. But after a minute or two, they're going to say, there must be somebody else that you can call because we can't access your account. Now, that's exactly what we want. And myself and the CEO, we every 6 months or less, we go in the stores ourselves and we try and SIM swap ourselves. We try because we're always testing it.
Wow.
We have multiple customers that are pen testers, penetration testers. That's their profession. And so every once in a while, one of them will call me or call somebody else and say like, hey, just wanted to tell you congratulations. I tried to SIM swap myself and I couldn't do it. An influencer actually a couple of weeks ago put out a video on it. So we told him, hey, you can't do this. And you're not going to be able to, you can go into a store, you can't get it. So he actually did a video on that and gave us a really good review saying, hey, this is all true. Like couldn't get any information out of the, from the store. And so what we're doing by all these simple steps is we're eliminating all the people that can be bribed, that can be tricked through impersonation, like through that video that you're referencing. People, so if you think about how you call an 800 number, and these big carriers have call centers in multiple countries, and so they have no control over what these individuals are doing, and you're giving them all your verification info, so they could on the side collect that in a spreadsheet, and then sell that to SIM swap hackers or on the dark web, or sell it in SIM swap forums. There's actually SIM swap forums that exist where hackers go and data brokers go and actually one of the big Twitter hacks where somebody took over all the blue check accounts, that actually was information traded in a SIM swap forum. And so you can literally go in and say like, I want to target this person, and they sort of barter in exchange of like, well, I'll help you for this amount. And so it's getting to be kind of organized crime. And the higher that crypto goes, it's more incentive for people to try and do it.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners who make this podcast possible. First up, Bitcoin 2024. The world's largest Bitcoin conference is coming to Nashville this July. Join us for 3 amazing days of keynotes, panels, networking events. workshops, concerts, and my third annual Women of Bitcoin brunch. Head to b.tc/conference and use the code HODL, HODL, for 10% off. Next up, Speed Bitcoin Lightning Wallet, one of the fastest growing Bitcoin wallets out there. Speed is a secure and low-cost way to send or receive Bitcoin instantly. It's super simple and scores high user ratings. You can even use it to shop gift cards of your favorite brands and earn rewards. Download Speed using the QR code on the screen or the link in my show notes. And finally, the why of Bitcoin is easy to grasp, but the how can be so confusing. The Bitcoin Way is your professional Bitcoin IT and security team that offers personalized one-on-one support to guide you through cold storage, setting up a node, inheritance planning, privacy best practices, and more. Don't take my word for it. Take 82-year-old customer Bill's.
Give the Bitcoin Way a try. You will be well on your way to owning and protecting the greatest money ever discovered.
Set up your free 30-minute consultation with the Bitcoin Way today. All right, back to the show. And so you must see on a daily basis, like, people lose significant amounts of money.
I've talked to people that have. One guy lost 1.2 million. Another one lost 600,000. I have somebody probably cry on the phone. I would say like once a month, and it's kind of hard. And sometimes that's about money lost, and sometimes it's about they got SIM swap, and it's all about harassment. And so people tell me about their relationships and exes and things that are going on. Sort of like I become sort of a bartender in that sense. But the most devastating one was actually a woman out of Oakland who. She was telling me the story, and it sounds like she had bought one Bitcoin when it was somewhere around $400 or $500, and then it was when it jumped up to like 37,000, and she said that and it was just everything to her. So she happened to have like $400, bought one, and then so this 37,000 was like everything that she had in her life. And she said one day her phone stopped working. She didn't know what it meant. And she waited till the next day, went into the store, and then they were like, "Oh, you bought an iPhone. You bought a new iPhone off your account a couple of days ago." And she's like, "That wasn't me." And they were like, "Okay, well, somebody put a phone on your account." And then they put her service back. She went home, and then her Coinbase account was zero, and somebody had stolen all of it. And
so they reset her password and did all that.
They reset everything and stole it. So it's probably somebody that she knew, is my guess. She probably told people, and somebody probably
Horrible.
close to her may have, stole it. And
So
and I was like,
horrible.
oh, yeah. Oh, and that one. So the person that lost like 600,000 or 1.2 million, they had a lot more, right? They lost 1 million out of, 8, 9, 10 million, where this was everything to her. And I was like, "Oh, well, how'd you hear about Efani?" And she said, "Well, I actually just got off the phone with the FBI cybersecurity group in San Francisco, and I asked them how to prevent this from happening. And the FBI actually told her to go to Efani." So that was sort of the only positive point out of the story. That
Are you guys connected at all to intelligence agencies?
So we aren't, but I happened to be on a panel a couple years ago with the FBI. And so I got invited into a panel where the FBI was there, and then there was like 4 or 5 other cybersecurity people like me. And so that's
Okay.
sort of how
But no connection, like no.
No. I mean, we have customers who are political participants, or they work for the government, but we don't have any government contracts today.
Got it. That actually, I think a lot of people would want to know that. So basically anyone can be a victim. It doesn't have to be someone that has a ton of followers and is very public in the space. It could literally be anyone, because personal information is out there, and it's sort of, it doesn't cost the hacker very much to try, and the reward could possibly be very big and lucrative.
I mean, there's zero penalty to them attempting to do this. So to give you an example of one of the more popular methods, what they're doing is they learn enough about you and impersonate you, or they'll have a buddy that works at like an independent, like third-party phone store. They'll go in there, get verified, then they'll buy a phone off of your account and add a line. Then they go home, and the next day they're calling from a line that's on your account. And now you don't know the line, and the phone's been added to your account, but they're calling from a phone off of your account, and a mobile number that's on your account, so they can actually get verified into your account. Now they don't have to trick anybody; they're literally getting verified, and then they'll say, oh, "I want to switch my old line to my new phone." And from the articles I read, this is how it sounds like Bart Stevens got hit, who's the CEO of Blockchain Ventures, and he got impersonated, and he lost 6.3 million, according to the articles written about him. And then they actually, and that might have been an insider as well, because you'd have to kind of know who he was and maybe know about his business. And then the article goes on to talk about how the hacker then tried to go after the Blockchain Ventures crypto that they were holding. And then he happened to have a tech guy that started seeing somebody poke around and was able to knock him out. But even businesses, there was a digital asset exchange out of New York a couple of years ago where a middle manager who happened to be a guy that had access into the back end system of this company, he got SIM swapped. They used that to get into the exchange. They deleted all the historical transactions of all the customers, and then they stole the whole customer database. So then those customers then will be potential or were potential SIM. So we started getting people calling us to switch over in a rush from that. Same thing happened with the Ledger hack. So they stole the customer database of Ledger. So the irony of that is that the customer database doesn't allow them to hack into the Ledger devices, but it allowed them to then spam all of them pretending to be Ledger. And when you get those spams, you click on it, it can execute lines of code that could say, what kind of phone is this? What's the device ID? What's the SIM number? What carrier? And from the hack, they already know you're a crypto person. They have your name. They have an email. So now when they call like AT&T or T-Mobile and say like, oh, my iPhone 11 got stolen, and here's the device ID and the SIM number.
Oh, wow.
The rep's going to be like, well, this has got to be him.
Yeah, that's wild.
And they don't, when people say like, well, I have the 4-digit pins. If you just say like, I stored it on that phone that got stolen, they'll say, oh, no problem, Mark. We'll verify you another way. What's your address? Like, and the hacker already has all that. They have everything about you.
That is crazy. I mean, you're absolutely right. All this personal information is really out there. It's actually scary when you start looking how much information is public. Yeah. And to the earlier point that we made about that simulation video that you guys showed me, I mean, I just want to reiterate to the audience, this hacker did this within 2 minutes, actually put on the sound of a baby crying, pretended to be someone's partner, and was able to access their accounts. And shame on the wireless company, right, for not having more secure protocols in place. But like, this can literally happen to anyone. And with AI potentially being able to impersonate people's voices, I had another show about sort of security and protecting yourself. And we talked about how you should have a family password, because if someone's calling you and pretending that they're trying to get something, like every family today should have a password, and you must be really secure. Don't do the SMS authentication, because you are more vulnerable to SIM swaps. Make sure to have the authenticator apps. Make sure that things are on your hardware as much as you can, and passcode protect your hardware. I mean, there's so many steps to think about. It does get overwhelming. One question I have to ask is, I know that Efani has so many layers of protection, but you're all humans, right? So like, there are corruptible, fallible humans in every organization. Can you give me that for the people worried that could this happen with Efani? What do you say?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so I can't give away kind of the secrets of like how we operate internally too deeply, just because we don't want to make it easy for somebody to sort of reverse engineer what we're doing, or for some other group of people to duplicate what Efani does. But to give you a couple examples of what we do is that, for one, like even inside of Efani, it's a need to know basis. And so we have our customer support's divided up into 3 different levels. The first level is tier 1. And our tier 1 customer support reps don't even have access into our customer database. And so they can't see the details, and all they can do is take the call. They can verify that somebody's a customer, and they can do very basic things, but they don't have any access into it. So they submit it. That's sent to tier 2 if it's a request that needs tier 2. And tier 2 has limited, they can do certain things. And then tier 3 is for like what we would say for like a port out. And so tier 2 has certain things they have to follow, and they sort of live in this security bubble. They can only do certain things. And tier 3, there's only really 2 people in the company that can actually do tier 3. And that's the risky transactions of an example of being a port out. So the fact that we back up our service with a $5 million insurance policy means that we're going to do everything humanly possible to verify and make sure that the person that is, if they were to ask for a port out, or they call and say, I bought a new phone, I want to switch my line from one phone to another phone, that we're going to verify that account. One of the biggest differences between like the carriers and Efani is that the carriers have done the math on paying out losses. And so when you get SIM swapped and you have losses and you actually want to sue them, that's when you find out that they've slid in arbitration clauses and that you can't really sue them directly. You've got to get an arbitration attorney, go to arbitration court. And then if you lost
really?
100,000, you're only going to get probably about 40% of that. And then you're going to have to pay your attorney out of that 40%. So they've done the math, and they'd rather just pay out because we don't have to worry about them trying to do what we do because it's too complex for them. Like they have independent retailers, they have, there's other resellers like Efani out there. They're not doing what we do, but, and then they have multiple call centers. So there's no way for them to control it. They would be a nonprofit business if they tried to protect accounts like we do. So they've just figured out, like, if somebody wants to leave us, we're going to make that a cheap experience, let them go, and we'll just have some losses and we'll pay in arbitration. Where the difference between that and Efani is that our resources are actually focused and our efforts are focused on that verification process so that we never have to use our insurance policy. And our whole business model, like our reputation, everything is based on making sure that nobody ever gets SIM swapped. And so I know the details of what happens because I've been asked by attorneys to be an expert witness multiple times. So every couple months, I've got another attorney that asks me, and I actually know one of the main people that the carriers hire to defend the carriers. And he's actually one of our biggest fans.
Wow.
And he's an ex-CISO of one of the major carriers. And so he's endorsed us and he's a big fan of ours. And so the last time an attorney asked me to help represent his clients, he had 8 SIM swap cases, all monetary losses, and they were all under the same judge. And he said the judge didn't know what a SIM swap was, and the carrier's defense was that SIM swaps are normalized in the industry, and therefore they should not be held accountable for something that can't be controlled, can't be protected, and that happens to every carrier. And so that's why they come to me at Efani, just because we've never had a SIM swap, and we're protecting some of the biggest targets. We have billionaires, we have people that own their own jets that fly to Qatar to go see the World Cup, and then go fly to El Salvador or wherever they're going, and they just want to make sure that when they land in Vietnam that their mobile account's still there. Right. And so we've never had a SIM swap. We've got professional athletes. I get to have some interesting calls with. I've talked to people like pop music, professional athletes. I've talked to a couple token founders, and we protect every one of them. We've never had an incident.
Yeah. Wow. So 0 SIM swaps, 0 hacks. And really it all does come down to incentives, because it sounds like there's these big mobile companies, there really is no incentive to pay that much attention. They have deep pockets. They can defend themselves, especially with all these arbitration clauses. So really interesting. Whereas you guys are really focused, your whole business model is set up so that you have to be the most secure, because if there's one hack, I mean, basically that could be fatal to the business. So tell me this. I mean, you're mentioning billionaires, CEOs, celebrities, sports figures, a lot. As much as I'd like to think that those people are watching my show, it's a lot of, working people like myself, like people who probably don't have those kinds of sums of money. Is your service affordable? Because I know that that's one thing people really look at when they're picking out their phone plans. Is it affordable?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have we have, married couples that are like high school teachers, and they have enough. They have, $20,000 they want to protect, and then their personal life that they want to protect. And so, we've got just tons and tons of middle class people, all the way to some of the wealthiest people, in the U.S. So, our service is $99 per month, and that's all taxes and fees included, and that includes the AT&T and Verizon service. And that's voice, data, text in US, Canada, Mexico. It also includes the hotspot as part of that. And then also Wi-Fi calling and SMS globally. And so I love traveling all around the world, and I'm trying to make up for lost time. So I've used Efani in 7 different countries in the last year. So Qatar and Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and I've used the Wi-Fi call and SMS. So I can do my SMS verifications globally for free. If somebody calls my US mobile number and I'm behind Wi-Fi, then it's all free. And I actually travel internationally with a Wi-Fi dongle. And so all my calling and SMS is free. And then also we include international data roaming. So if you were to go to London or Singapore, you just let us know, and we give you complimentary data eSIM. So that's all part of it. So anyone who's leaves North America for twice a year or more, then our service actually becomes cheaper than what the carriers are offering. And of course, you get our SIM swap security, you get the privacy that we offer, and the $5 million insurance policy. So the nice thing about our service is that, let's say you're already using AT&T or Verizon, you're most likely already paying anywhere from say $75 to like $115. And I've had people tell me that they're paying more than that, but most people are already paying somewhere around $80 to $90. And so if they just pay the $99, you're sort of rerouting those funds to Efani. You're going to get the privacy, the security, sort of a white glove type treatment, the international data roaming, and of course the verification that we do, the security part of it. And that's the reason people buy us, is that SIM swap security and the insurance. The privacy is a big benefit. We really don't sell on privacy, but it's actually becoming a huge part of the benefits you get with these major hacks that are happening. And the first time that you and I had touched base, I was telling you about the cell tower spoofers and how people now can build do-it-yourself cell tower spoofers called IMSI catchers.
And they can go on like hotel Wi-Fis or airport, like other public Wi-Fis, and then just create basically their own version that you sign on to, and suddenly your devices are compromised.
Yeah, or you can turn them into the cellular IMSI catchers, and they fit in a little backpack that you can go into a Bitcoin conference in Vegas or Miami and sit there and collect people's IMSI numbers. And the IMSI number tells you what country you're from, what carrier you're using, and then your personal identification for that number. And then if they have buddies that work at the carriers, then they can say, hey, who owns this IMSI number, and sort of backtrack it. But again, with Efani, they can't do that because they would call them and say, like, well, the information, we don't even know who serves that number. And so the privacy is getting to be quite important.
Absolutely. People really need to protect themselves. I'm really grateful that I was pointed to your services. Like I said, I mean, whenever there was a SIM swap or a hack, someone always tagged you. But then more recently, it happened to people that I know. Preston recommended you a lot as well. And so I just grateful you exist. By the time this comes out, I will be a customer. But for those who sign up, we'll put a link in. I believe it's $99 off, right? For people that are new.
So it's a $99 promo code, which if you do the monthly, so we don't do contracts. That's the other benefit with the Efani, is we don't do contracts. We don't try and lock people in. We try and lock people in the sense of offering the value. And so our churn rates like breaking records in the industry. So if they choose the monthly, the $99 will go against their second month. So the second month's free.
Got it.
We also offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. So for $99, you can use this for 2 months under your promo code. And then even after on the 60th day, if you weren't satisfied and you don't think it's worth it, then you just choose to move to another carrier. Right. If you choose the annual price, it's typically $999. So you save almost 2 months of billing. And people can upgrade. They can start out monthly and upgrade any day they want. But that promo code will be right off the top. So for $900, you can buy a whole year's worth of Efani. And that's hard to beat because now it's like we're basically actually cheaper than most people that are using AT&T and Verizon.
Well, thank you so much for all this information. Like I said, I've seen this happen so much more frequently, especially recently. Certainly during the bull market, I expect to see more, hopefully to no one in my audience. So thank you so much. Again, Mark Kreitzman, General Manager of Efani. Anything else you want people to know before we sign off?
Yeah, just to dispel like two myths. So again, if you have the most secure phone on the planet and you put that in a Faraday bag and stick that in a waterproof safe and drop it in a lake, the SIM swappers don't care. Your phone's completely taken out of the equation. So just be aware of that. And then definitely, keep your password secure and use the VPN and AV, but just be aware of that. And then also the other myth is that people think that, well, I can't get SIM swap because I set a SIM pin lock. And just be aware that SIM pin lock means that if you're using a physical SIM and your phone gets physically stolen, somebody can't pull that SIM out and put it in another phone. But again, under a SIM swap, your phone and that SIM pin lock is completely taken out of the equation and is completely irrelevant. They can still SIM swap you all they want. So just be aware of that. Beyond that, just be aware how you use your phone, stay safe and secure, and I hope everybody makes a ton of money on crypto.
Me too. Great information. Thank you so much. Links are in the show notes, and just head to efani.com/Natalie to learn more and to sign up. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. If you're listening on the Fountain app, you can show your support and share your thoughts by sending a boost. Last month's top episode on Fountain was with Peter Schiff. At Jay's boosted 10,000 sats and said, "We're sailing from Panama to Tahiti, and thanks to the digital world, I'm able to listen to your podcast and reply and boost it. It's amazing Peter talks about digital photos and doesn't get digital money." Oh, I agree. I love reading and replying to your boosts. So download Fountain on iOS or Android today and make sure you subscribe to Coin Stories. This show is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nothing should constitute as official investment advice, and you should always do your own research. My inbox is open if you want to share feedback or guest suggestions. Just reach out at Natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. I'll see you next time.